Have you ever caught yourself doing something you swore you'd never do, and instead of stopping, you just found a reason it was fine? You skipped the gym, again. But this time you told yourself you needed rest for recovery. You said you'd eat healthy, then ordered the large fries. But hey, you walked an extra block today, so it balances out, right? Or maybe it's bigger than that. You stayed in a job you hate because the salary is too good to walk away from. You stayed in a relationship that was quietly draining you because you'd already invested so many years. And the whole time, some part of you knew. You knew it didn't quite add up. But your brain was working so hard, spinning stories, building cases, doing mental gymnastics, just to let you feel okay about it. That feeling. That mental friction. That's not weakness. That's not hypocrisy. That is your brain running one of its most sophisticated survival programs. And today, we're going to crack it open. In 1957, psychologist Leon Festinger introduced the world to a concept he called cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort you experience when two contradictory beliefs, values, or behaviors exist inside you at the same time. Think of your mind as a high-performance operating system. Cognitive dissonance is what happens when two programs try to run simultaneously and they are fundamentally incompatible. The system doesn't crash. Instead, it does something far more clever. It rewrites one of the programs so they can coexist. You don't just hold beliefs. You hold an identity. And when your actions threaten that identity, I'm a healthy person. I'm a good partner. I'm someone who has their life together. Your brain doesn't just sit there and take the hit. It negotiates. It rationalizes. It edits the story until you're the hero again. And here's the part they don't teach you. This isn't a flaw in your design. It's a feature. A nervous system that constantly forced you to sit in full awareness of every contradiction you've ever lived would be unbearable. The dissonance reduction mechanism exists because coherent selfhood is a prerequisite for functioning. You are not broken. Your brain is simply playing chess while most people think it's playing checkers. So where does this leave you? Because understanding cognitive dissonance isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's a key that unlocks something about every relationship you've struggled in, every habit you've failed to change, every version of yourself you've been quietly ashamed of. Here's the deeper truth. We don't reduce dissonance to be lazy. We reduce it because the cognitive load of living in permanent contradiction is genuinely exhausting. Social interactions, complex decisions, unresolved conflicts, these aren't just emotionally taxing. They are neurologically expensive. Every moment you hold two opposing truths in tension is a moment your prefrontal cortex is burning fuel. Imagine you're carrying two heavy suitcases, one labeled "Who I Believe I Am" and one labeled "What I Actually Did." Cognitive dissonance is the unbearable weight of carrying both. The brain's solution? Quietly unpack one and leave it on the side of the road. The relief is immediate. The cost is invisible until it isn't. This is where the concept of identity anchoring becomes critical. The behaviors most likely to trigger dissonance are the ones that contradict your core self-image, which means the louder the internal conflict, the more important the threatened identity is to you. So the next time you catch yourself over-explaining why you made a choice that you already know wasn't right, don't shame spiral. Get curious. Ask, what belief about myself am I trying to protect right now? That question alone is worth more than a decade of self-criticism. And growth, real growth, doesn't come from eliminating the dissonance. It comes from learning to stay in it long enough to hear what it's actually telling you. The discomfort is data. The friction is a signal. The cognitive tension you're trying to escape is, in fact, the exact location of the change you've been seeking. That's not toxic positivity. Sitting with dissonance hurts. It requires you to look at the gap between who you want to be and who you're actually being, and not flinch. That's genuinely hard work. But the alternative, a life built on increasingly elaborate stories, is harder in ways that compound silently. You are a bridge between the person you were and the person you're becoming. And every bridge has to tolerate tension in order to hold weight. You are not falling apart. You are load-bearing. Research using fMRI imaging shows that cognitive dissonance activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's conflict detection center, generating a measurable discomfort signal. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex engages in active rationalization, working to resolve the conflict and restore internal consistency. Studies show that when this resolution happens, the brain releases a small dopamine reward, which is why rationalization feels so satisfying in the moment, even when it's self-deceptive. The brain is literally rewarding you for resolving the tension, regardless of the method you used to do it. In other words, your brain doesn't care whether the resolution was honest or convenient. It just wants the signal to stop. Which means the burden of choosing a better resolution always falls on your conscious awareness, not your automatic systems. This is why self-awareness isn't a personality trait. It's a neurological skill, one that can be trained. One that gets stronger each time you choose to pause before your brain hands you the comfortable story. The next time you feel that quiet mental friction, that small, uncomfortable voice that tells you something doesn't quite add up, don't silence it immediately. Sit with it for 30 seconds. Just 30. Ask yourself, is this the story I want to build my next decision on? It's not a failure of willpower that brought you here. It's not a character flaw. It's your biology, brilliant, ancient, relentless, trying to protect you from the pain of contradiction. You just get to decide, consciously and deliberately, whether that protection is still serving you. You are not your rationalizations. You are the person who can notice them. Drop in the comments, what's one story you've been telling yourself that you're finally ready to question? No judgment here. This is a space for honest minds. The most courageous thing you can do is stay in the discomfort long enough to let it teach you.